Hey all, Steve from GuitarNiche here. I have on the bench a brand new Paul Reed Smith SE DTG, which was just dropped off to me a couple days ago. So I did a real quick assessment on it. The owner really likes the guitar, but noticed that the action was high, and it is a little out of spec here through the major portion of the neck, and it's just not sitting pretty. These instruments are known for being like super, fine instruments in general, and very, of course, very playable. In my opinion, these are one of the, probably at the top of my list as far as offshore made instruments, all things considered, quality of workmanship, materials, and value for the money. They are stellar instruments, and this I think by the end will be no exception. So as I said, I went through it pretty quick, and I kind of made some judgments to start with, but I'm gonna follow my normal course to a degree of how I approach things. First thing is I'm going to get this truss rod cover off and have a little inspection of what's going on at the end of the truss rod here. Here we are having a look at the truss rod access, and these things are so clean. They're so well done. It's redonkulous. Anyway, that's very, very cool. Very cool. Now, as we move on through, say, some of the other aspects of the instrument, one thing I noticed was, in terms of action, I haven't measured it, but I can feel it. I'm not going to put a absolute spec on it, because fine instruments, a hard number will get you in the ballpark. At the end of the day, it's got to feel right when everything is adjusted properly. One thing I noticed, though, is that there's a lot of leeway at the bridge yet. Those saddles are sitting pretty proud. They're fine. I mean, there's a good bit of adjustment left there. And as far as the controls and stuff goes, this is the volume for the bridge, volume for the neck. Of course, your toggle works as expected, 3-way, and master tone. I forget exactly what pickups are in here, but I haven't done like a total sound check. I checked that it was working. It's all good, blah, blah, blah. It's all good. Now, one thing I looked at was the output jack is just a hair off of the center line for the median of the body. It's super fractional, and it is what it is, but it's little things. Anyway, as far as the rest of the instrument goes, it's beautiful. It's just so well done. I'll give this a quick turn. And made by Cortec, who also makes chord instruments. I used to deal chord acoustics and electrics back in the day. Not that long ago, but certainly long enough. We're going to have a look at what's going on inside here. Okay, actually I'm going to expedite things a little bit with my handy dandy driller killer. One thing I will make mention of while I'm at it is, put those in a separate tray. This plastic, factory plastic on the pick guards and back plates and stuff like that, especially when you have like a factory sticker or something on there, like branded, like a lot of instruments have that, you know, made by such and such brand, and they want to, you know, really pump up their brand recognition. And you'll have a sticker on, let's say a very light colored white pickguard or something like that. Get that off of there right away, because if you don't do that, you're gonna have a sunburn. You're gonna it gets, yeah. Anyway, I did a video about that, and there's evidence. Anyway, we're gonna have that, and then we're going to, might as well take off the back plate here for the spring cavity. We got 4 springs in there. Very nice, very nice. There is, again, there's some plastic on here. Another thing I would mention, just out of passing, is that if you don't take off this plastic relatively early on, it will eventually become part of the material, the substrate being the plastic itself, and it will be a real pain in the butt to get off. If you intend on keeping the instrument, that is, if it's not intended for retail, peel that stuff off, okay? Get it off. Okay, so we got 4 springs back here. We have braided cabling, very clean, shielded, all that good stuff. Push-pull, very nice. The only issue I would have with this is that it is, because that is braided shielding and conductive, you got to take great care that that does not get anywhere near open contacts. That's a little thing, but it does make a difference. So, where do we go from here? Well, let's just say strings got to come off. So, first order of business is getting the strings off. And before I do that, I'm going to measure the string gauge so that I know what I'm getting into. That is 10 to 46, which is standard set of 10s. And the bridge is sitting fairly level to the body. I do like the way these are set up from the factory. Like the finesse that goes into setting these up is really quite nice. I don't want to touch these pivot screws if I don't have to, because they tend to be set really nice from the factory, and there's usually enough play in the saddles to work with it, or other adjustments if you would. Now I think this is just a piece of tongue depressor. I'm just going to get that maybe in the back there. Okay. And that will keep the bridge somewhat stabilized. I'm going to just put a piece of tape on that just to make sure that it stays put in case anything changes. By the way, the finish is just stellar. It's like these things are just lovely. Anyway, on with the show. Okay, so next step, hang on 1 second. Next step is to relieve string tension. Now here's one of these things where, oh my God, he's taking all the strings off. Yep, the guitar's gonna explode, you watch. Oh my gosh. It didn't explode. It won't explode. It's a new guitar. Okay, now I'm a big fan of, oh my goodness, they actually locked the strings. Interesting. Cool. Now whether you agree with locks or not, that's fine. But they're not really that hard to get rid of if you, or take off if you know what you're doing. See? Easy peasy. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, the guitar didn't explode, etc., etc. So good. Now, these are factory strings that were on there. Let's see if we have a pedigree. They're all brass ball ends, so could be anything, I suppose. I imagine it's something of a reasonable quality. Could be ring ball, could be anything with consistent brass balls, non-colored, that is. They're not D'Addario or standard D'Addarios, which is what we're going to be putting on. By the way, I just noticed that this one string is not just falling out, like conveniently. I'm going to make a point of something once I get closer to where I want to be. This happens all the time, regardless of the brand of instrument, etc. But here we have a string that doesn't want to come out. I have, it's just a, you know, one of my standard hex drivers here, but it's got a little handle on it. The thing is, it's thin enough, straight or strong enough to just get down inside that hole, and that just pops right out. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping here, and this is going to be super simple. This neck needs nothing, basically nothing, but I want to make sure that it's nice. So from the factory, it's going to be in pretty good nick, I would say. I'm just going to use a regular old piece of paper towel and clean the fretboard. That's it. That is it. What this will do, see a little bit of garbage coming up, a little dirt, okay? That's finger junk. It's a little bit of stuff from the wood. Paper towel is underrated in terms of what it can do or be used for. You can use it to polish frets. Seriously. It's so freaking fine. It will leave a mirror polish on very good condition frets, and it will clean lovely. Okay? Look at that. Wonderful. Like that is just spanking brand new. I'll use a new one to go around for cleaning. Next step is I'm going to go around the headstock and just snug. Oh, no, I want to show you something right. I hope you can see that. I'm going to check the monitor here. Oh, it's just out of shot here. See if I can get that. Okay. You might not be able to see this, but maybe you can. That tuner, that key, is actually moving with the bushing, or the threaded bushing. And not to worry. See, I'm just snugging it up. Just not gorilla tight, like I say. So I'm going to come back here. Oh, hang on a sec. I'd like to see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay. this is fresh out of the box into the player's hands. The wood has had a little bit of time to acclimatize. It's probably not done. We're in Canada here in southern Ontario, which gets super hot and humid summers and super dry, cold winters. So, you know, we get a pretty broad extreme here. Anyway, these screws were all just slightly loose. One thing I want to mention here is if you go changing tuners on this type of this type of SE instrument, what you will find is chipping. It's very common. You take off these tuners. They're fine tuners, by the way. You take them off, but you will find that there might be chipping. And there was a discussion on one of the groups about a fellow who's changing out tuners, and he noted that, what do I do about this chipping? And one of the contributors, one of the commenters said, well, Paul Reed Smith, he worked for Paul Reed Smith in the in the actual factory that made these, and he said Paul Reed Smith really wanted to maintain a thin finish, a really super thin finish, and the finish is hard, so it's susceptible to cracking or flaking or that sort of thing. So it's not the end of the world, you know. It is what it is, but be aware of that if you're dealing with this sort of thing. Anyway, I digress. So I'm more or less done with this. I can cast off that. Next step is to install the strings. All right, so good old Diodarrios come out in pairs, and as we go along, I will probably edit out some of the extraneous stuff here, but I do like to talk while I'm going through this because stuff pops into my head. And one thing I noticed is that this particular guitar has I'll show this if you can see it. That's got the large mass sustain block in the back for the trem. Okay, there's whether that adds anything to the overall tonality of the instrument and sustain in general is a matter of debate. Does it hurt? Nope. Would I prefer to see some skinny piece of bent metal in there like some of the super cheap 80s copies and stuff? Nope. Man, they're terrible. Can't hold a tune worth a darn. Won't stay in tune no matter what you do. Literally just a long U channel, just a piece of crap. Anyway, this is not. Where am I going here? Oop. There we go. Pay attention, buddy. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's through. On to installing some strings. So we'll see how this goes. I'll probably wind up fast forwarding a lot of this stuff. Okay, I just want to get one string on here. Oop. Okay, just so that this is not just free floating or how can I say it? Has some tension on it. Okay, so for detailing, I use Mother's Instant Detailer. It actually works really, really well. It's designed for automotive, of course, but on guitars, it does a great job. I'm not cleaning anything so much as just detailing. I'm taking off fingerprints, picking up some dust and stuff like that. There's no grit, grime, garbage. or anything like that. You know, I'll get under here before we get all loaded up with strings and stuff. Okay. Try to keep the fingerprints to a minimum. Keep that off to the side for future use. Carry on with the string. Okay. Give it a haircut. Beauty. Now, next part of the process. Don't need that. Anyway, to make one final point here. The bushings here are just snugged up. Again, not cranked down, just snugged up, because as we go through some more changes in humidity and temperature and environment, it will change dimensions in terms of microns, but it's enough to cause nasty things to happen, and we want to avoid that. Anyway, okay, we're going to bring that up to pitch. Beauty. Okay. So we're back in the saddle as far as new strings. All the tension has been relieved and put back on. I'm going to check that the truss rod adjuster is indeed doing what it's supposed to do. It's good. It's actually got just kind of the right amount of friction on that, but it moves freely. Okay, so the action is absolutely sky high. So that bridge has come up from level with the body. The strings feel higher than before. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to make some adjustments at the saddles here, along with, well, just proper tool. Bring this up a little bit. Let's see if I can't get that to sit a little better. That's good. Okay. A note here is that new strings, of course, you change your strings. This is very typical where things kind of go, you know, into a different zone. Very common when you change your strings on a new instrument, or even something where you've had it for a while, you haven't changed the strings for a while, and you change the strings, and all of a sudden everything's not where it's supposed to be. Very common, but luckily electric guitars are designed to be adjustable. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to reassess that. Tightening the bolts in the back brought the bridge down a little bit. It's where it's supposed to be at this point. Yeah, that's the right one. I'm going to drop these saddles very quickly. Beauty. Okay, so bring that back up to pitch. Okay, super duper. Okay, yeah, we're very close. Oh yeah, we're really close to where we want to wind up. Just by doing that. I'm going to take a short break and make sure things are running smoothly, and I'll get back to this in just a moment. Apparently the neck is a 10-inch radius. I'm going to double check that. The difference between 9.5 and a 10, other than the obvious ½ inch, is going to be pretty minor. I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to go for 9.5. Even though it says 10 on on the website, you know what I've found is that after production, neck radii, I should say, are not always what they're supposed to be. It's just, you know, like stuff changes through planing and sanding and finishing and all sorts of lovely stuff. And the other thing that popped into my head right away was from a playability standpoint, a 9.5 radius means that there's a little bit more arc to the strings. I don't see any real difference there. Yeah, that's good. Meaning the middle strings are going to sit a little bit more proud, and that actually works to your advantage because the rather wrangly middle strings, they get, you know, they're pretty excited. If you give them a little bit more room to breathe, I mean, come on, we're talking half an inch here. Sure, it's not on spec according to the factory, but the physics and the end result, the practicality of it is, you know, in my opinion, is a better way to go. So at this point, we're looking at the back of the bridge. Everything changed. Everything went out the window. Everything's wonky. Okay. The bridge is actually sitting on the body, almost sitting on the body. So I'm going to back these up a fraction or so. Beauty. See if that's a good thing. So, am I in the ballpark? Better. Not perfect, but better. Still pretty high. All right, we'll do it again. Depending on how the fulcrum and the saddle, or the saddle position is, which is, you know, intonation dependent. In other words, let me explain it like this. If the saddles were way back here and your fulcrum's here, a little bit of wiggle is going to just produce ridiculous, you know, small results. But closer to that fulcrum point, the closer to the fulcrum point you get, the less movement is going to have more impact on the change in pressure and pitch. Okay, it's just think of it like a teeter-totter, you know. Anyway, that's kind of a odd way to describe it, but I think you get the gist. Anyway, okay, we're close. Okay, this is the process. So that is level again as to where it's supposed to be. Well, we'll leave that. One point I'm going to make here is I'm going to, at this point I haven't stretched the strings, but I'm going to stretch the strings now because that changes stuff. I don't have to worry about things like taking the strings off, making adjustments and stuff. These guitars, this type of guitar is designed to make all your adjustments with the strings on as they are. I don't have to, you know, take like on an acoustic, you would have to take all the strings off, take the saddle out, make an adjustment, put the saddle back in, put all the strings back on, tighten it up, blah blah blah. We don't have to do that. So the strings are installed, they're stable. They don't have to go anywhere, hopefully. Beauty, in the ballpark. The bridge is level, that's good. It's about a 1/16 of an inch off the deck, you might say. And It's just, that's not the right tool for that. I don't have the bar out just at the moment, so I'm going to use whatever I have handy. Here's a little trick I'll share with you, okay? You see how, hang on a second, let's try that again. Actually, let me, I'm just going to take a second and grab a longer piece here. There we go, okay. This is a good illustration of how one edge is a little bit tighter to the body than the other side of the bridge. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw up these screws just ever so fractionally. I gotta get around the string. I hate dealing with strings tight like that. What I'm doing is just, I'm not even gonna bother. Tweak. So smaller tweaks as I go towards here. And what I'm trying to do is get the bridge to sit or have equal pressure on both sides. Oh, actually, that works out really good. Oh, perfect. Well, near perfect anyway. Let's see this. I'm going to just torque that ever so slightly. These bridges are, of course, very, 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 very finely made. Okay, let's see. That's equal. Both ends, the amount of pressure it takes to pop that out on both sides is exactly the same. So I know that this bridge, provided there's no distortions in the bottom, of course, I would say that the back end of this bridge is sitting perfectly flush with the plane of the body. In other words, it's equidistant at the back plane. All with the aid of a tongue depressor. Gotta love them. Anyway, on with the show. So that's that. The next step is to start getting that's awful, just terrible. Action is just for shit. Pardon my French, but it's for shit. So I gotta use, I gotta use my tools here. Okay, so there's too much relief. I can feel it. It feels like I could drive. Oh, come on, get in there. I'm trying to be careful around these strings because like you monkey around up here too much, you see evidence of crap around the strings, and buggery marks and stuff like that. There's an art to this, right? One thing else, or another thing, maybe I'll try to explain here, is by lifting out the string on a graphite nut or composite nut like this. By the way, there's a little bit of, I would say this nut could be just fractionally wider and it would fit the fretboard width that much better. It's just, I can feel that edge there, eh? On both sides. It's good. I mean, it's really good, but it's not like a perfect fit. It's a production instrument. It's a very nice instrument. It's just one of those things. Anyway, if I lift out the string, I can see the shine from where the string has been hitting the bottom of that slot more than like towards the back or towards the front. This is a great tip for knowing where to cut, or how the nut's been cut, and what you can do to improve it. This one here, the second string, I have to do this somewhat verbally. There's a lot of shine in the middle of that one, that slot. This one has kind of the same thing going on, and this one's not bad, and that one I can't see because the light's not there. That one's great. A string's great, and the E string, low E string, is hard to say because it's soft and the wrap on the string is having an effect in the slot. What I'm gonna do now, let's get that, double checking tuning. Okay, I will just do this. Oh yeah. Just that little truss rod adjustment made a world of difference. And as I said, normally I would do this, you know, with the instrument sitting in my lap, but I'm trying to make some running points here, if you would. I will have to change up to do the next few steps and stuff just to get things dialed in on the bottom end here. But what I'll do is I'll show you. Okay. The way I feel the middle of the neck here, let's get that down here. I'm trying to simulate as if the instrument were in my lap. I'm looking at the height, taking visual cues of the height of the strings, where they are. The low E looks really good. The feel is really good right now. I know where it's going to wind up because these instruments, like I said from the get-go, these things are like superb. Fretwork is beautiful. The fretwork, the frets have a beautiful mirror shine on them. That is just on the verge of fretting out. This is this area here. Yeah, that area of the neck, 15th to 17th fret area, is prone to fretting out if there's any issue with the first string height, and it's all dependent on the radius of the neck. But I'll tell you this right now: the height of the first string is perfect, or near perfect. Okay, I just gotta get out of the shot here just for a second. There's ever so slightly a bit of relief in there. I try to shoot for a dead straight neck if I can, as straight as possible. And I'll pull up some of my favorite tools, which are coins. I mean, depending on what part of the world you live in, coins will have different thicknesses, but I'm pretty sure you can find out what they are, or you can, you know, use them as a visual guide or whatever. But a dime is pretty thin. I forget what the actual thickness is in terms of absolute measurements, but that's just sitting under there. Just sitting under there. Little, very, 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 very little friction. I'm gonna go for, that was an American dime. I'm gonna try a quarter. No, that's pushing the string around. So the difference between a dime and a quarter is significant, you know, if you look at them. These are American, by the way, again, to reaffirm. There's a little bit of slop there, but a dime is really super thin, man. And plus, you know, gravity is having an effect on this. If I lift that up a little bit, take that away, yeah. That's at the 12th fret, 15th fret. That's super duper. Anyway, that gives you an idea of where the first string on this instrument is sitting, in terms of where it's going to wind up. I doubt that, like, I'm going to check it, of course, but I doubt the rest of the frets are going to have any real issues. I'll go back to my quarter again, my US quarter. That's moving the string. That's moving the low E. Let's see, I got a Canadian penny here, which is between, it's somewhere between the dime and the US quarter. The nickel is actually thicker than all of them. Yeah, that's not bad. Anyway, it gives you a reference. I mean, take a coin out of your pocket if you're in North America, Canada, US, and look at the thickness of a you know, a dime, quarter, nickel, whatever. That gives you these. I mean, it doesn't get much more convenient than that as in terms of you want some tools to work with. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to refine the low E. I'm going to refine the high E just to double check, make sure that everything is level. I'm going to bend some strings and stuff here to make sure that things are clearance, have clearance. The high E is my outer limit, and the low E is the other outer limit. That sets the tone for everything in between. I don't have to specifically measure everything else, because once I set the outer limits, everything else will follow the radius and go along for the ride. Okay, so I will be back momentarily. I'm going to measure the amount of relief in this at the moment, but before I do that, I'll make a note of a couple things I did while I was off camera. I did a quick test acoustically, getting a little bit of sizzle on the top string. It is fairly low, so right off the bat, I'm going to raise that just a fraction. And I mean, we're talking microns, like a couple thou, right? And then I'm going to readjust the truss rod a little bit. Get that out of the way. Give that just a teeny tiny little tweak. And check it visually. Looks good. It's got to be enough air underneath the strings to let the strings work, that is vibrate, but the neck still has to be straight enough to not make you work too hard, you know what I mean? Everything will wind up in balance at the end of the day. That's the important thing. Much better, much better. And I'm doing this acoustically, just so, you know, if it's plugged in, I might not hear some of the stuff, and I'd rather do it acoustically so that I know it's not there. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's beauty. Okay, so that's that. Now the next part. So I'm trying to take, let me explain it like this. I'm taking the nut as a given for now, up to this point. What's going on down here is notching into place, getting into the right spot, you might say. The relief is being kind of tweaked along, And what I'm trying to do is get these 3 points to balance into a perfect triangle so that each element, the nut, the bridge, and relief, all have harmony, and the instrument functions as well as it possibly can. And if you think of a triangle, you adjust 1 point, the other 2 points are automatically affected. Now, it's a wonderful little analogy. It really works quite well, and I'll explain it like this. The nut, when it's cut properly under proper neck relief, you should never have to readjust that or do anything with it unless it wears out or breaks or something like that. It becomes essentially a hinged or fixed point for the other 2 elements. So think of it, let's say, if a triangle were hanging in thin air, it would be the top of the triangle, and the rest of the other 2 points would be the relief and the bridge, which are, again, these will be adjustable over time with differences in humidity and climate and environment. And if you adjust the relief, chances are you'll have to adjust the bridge, or vice versa. You adjust the bridge, you might have to adjust the relief. Anyway, the point being, they all have to work together to create something that is harmonious and not only works for the instrument, what the instrument will allow, because some guitars are assholes. I'll say that in plain English. But what the instrument will allow and how it works for the player themselves, because there's so many different personalities. Not everybody wants super fine action. Some people want to dig a little bit. They like the strings. They want to like fight a little bit. Fine, great. You got to know that going in. Anyway, before I carry on here, the next thing I'm going to just look at here is, as I said, the amount of relief. I did a quick judgment here, and it's within spec. If I have to adjust it a little bit here and there, it's not going to affect anything else to a great degree, because it's like I've taken things and I've focused them to a point where I'm comfortable making teeny tiny adjustments and not having to make massive adjustments anywhere else. Okay, so I'm going to look at, pardon me, I gotta make a change here. So I'm looking at the amount of relief. I'm going to say that the nut looks like it's got a little bit too much air towards the treble side. It's not bad. I'll say it this way. It's not bad, but I'm going to recut it. But before I do that, I'm going to straighten the neck out. Why? So I know the neck is a little flatter than it should be, and what I read down here will give me a little, I'll have a safety zone, let's say. There'll be a safety zone by the time I reintroduce the relief back in. So things will tend to level out nicely. Anyway, I'm just getting my files here. I'm not going to touch the bass side because that's got some sizzle going on already. I hope you can see this. I got my 38. And I'm just going to knock that back a little bit. Graphite, you got to be really, really super careful with, because a little bit goes a long way. I'm going to keep that string suspended while I cut so that I don't get excursions into the surface there, or just hang it over into the next groove. And I'm trying to get a ramp going over the nut surface itself. That looks good. If I were to put a number on this, I would say, I The cut I just did on the A string there is probably the difference between, what did I take out? Maybe 3 thou, 2 or 3 thou, but it makes a difference. I already have the D string referenced in my mind. I use visual cues, gaps, light gaps for this. There's different ways of doing that. They're all good, depending on how you want to proceed. That's great. That was roughly the same amount. I tend to leave the D and the G strings a little proud because they are excitable strings. What I'm more concerned about here is the ramping for these particular strings, so that they have a leading edge that will work properly with the floating trim. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Let's hack that out just a little bit more. That's a beautiful thing right there. Okay, and then I'll use 16 on my 13 gauge B string. And remember, we already looked at the slots, so I know what the condition of the slots are. That's wonderful right there. And I'll grab the, where is it? 13 gauge. And I'm gonna, this one needed some more tweaking towards the back for sure. Oh, that's beautiful right there. Done. Done like dinner. Okay. Hopefully we caught some of that. And wonderfully in tune. Yeah, we're down a little bit. Okay, so the neck is a little bit, oh, sorry, I need my light again. Yeah, that's flat. That's pretty flat. I'm going to reintroduce that lost relief because it's sizzly. Just a hair. An eighth of a turn, quarter of a turn, doesn't matter. It's what you feel makes the difference. I mean, you gotta have some reference, right? That's a beautiful thing. Night and day. Night and day. Feels like more buttery every time I pick it up, okay? So, the next step is low E looks great. High E, I'm not even going to question it. It's just, it's an amazing thing. I'm going to use my 9.5 inch radius gauge now to fill in the blanks here. By the way, pushing the strings in, take out the any bend that's in the transition from a straight line over a break angle of any kind. What that does, like, because when your strings transition from here to there, it's not it's a curve. You gotta take the curve out. Take the curve out so that the strings are settled in properly. Okay. Be proud. And I'm using the back edge of the carriage here, the fridge plate, to make sure that the saddles themselves are level. little less D, a little less B. Okay, now if I really want to get fussy with this, that's pretty close. I'm going to tweak it a little bit more, but I want to maybe just get underneath just to double check. I don't usually do this because I usually just stick with the top. Yeah, the G string's a little high. Okay. So we're gonna dump the B a little bit. I'm gonna say that the G string is. I'm gonna leave it right where it was, even if it is a little high. Good. As long as I get across all of them, I'm happy with that. Almost ready to plug it in. Just a hair. Just a hair. I can feel it. It's hard to describe. I'm sorry, it's hard to describe, but a good feeling playing neck should have a sense about it. Anyway, this DTG, David Grissom model. The DTG is reference to the taper on the neck. I don't have enough information about exactly what that means, but it's, of course, it's like a Paul Reed Smith. It's pretty cool. It's nice. Anyway, the bridge is very nice, good. Everything's just wonderful. I'm gonna give this just a hair more of a stretch. Plug that in. Oh wait, one thing I'm going to do beforehand, before I get into sound check and stuff like that. I'm going to tighten up, or at least check this input nut, the input jack I should say. Now, you see this? That's a big hunk of metal. And I know people are getting all squirrely and wrangly and, you know, kind of squirming in their pants because I use a big hunk of junk like this on tightening up output jacks and stuff. I don't care. This thing works like a champ. I've been using it for decades. I don't scratch stuff with it, okay? I know how to use it. Anyway. And it works great for face on, just like that. I don't need a box end. I don't need anything special. This will do flush. It'll do ends. It's a brilliant thing. Okay? Anyway, no need to get stinky. I just have an opinion about certain things. It's all good. Anyway. Yeah, the amp has got a little bit of bite on it. This is, according to the specs on the guitar, that's a tap. What it really is a coil splitter. I did see that much. Tap and coil split, they're two different things in the literal sense, but in the operational sense, you go from a full humbucker to a single coil. Simple as that. We'll back that up. Okay, that's not cool. I don't know. Okay, I gotta point this out. I'm turning that too much to get any change in the pitch. One thing I'm gonna check here is make sure that the end screws are snug. If they're loose at all, you can get all sorts of nasty stuff going on. Okay, so that's good. What that tells me is we need some relief in that D string. So, in other words, it's binding. So I'm going to use my 32, and I'm not trying to cut it, I'm just trying to widen it, okay? Just widening it a little bit. So each string night and day. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. All right, bridge is great. It's flush with the body. It's about a tone up. Deflection. Beautiful. Okay, the last step here is I'm going to set the intonation, and then I will set the pickup height and give it again a once over and a little test drive. So far so good. Pretty barky though, but the pickups are pretty proud to the, they're tight to the strings, which they get aggressive, eh? And the sound will get, you know, just way too much bloom. Well, as far as intonating this goes, I'm going to skip over that. The whole intonation thing is explained in other videos I have, whether it's for a Tele or an ABR1 or a Nashville or a Strat or whatever. Same process here, okay? The SE series here is going to be no different, so I'll leave that part of it out, okay? And I'll be back in a moment. This is the latest edition of Paul Reed Smith SE DTG, Dave Grissom model, and this is the test drive. Let's call it the after hack, which is still a hack.